All right, today we're going to talk about, the one thing that separates financial advisors who consistently close business versus those who are stuck in this feast and famine and try and bring on everybody. Some people go around and they have this strategy of hope. Or some people have a proven strategy where they walk people through a documented process and really covers 5 things that every retiree wants to know and have answers to the questions. Hi, this is Jeremiah Lauts, VP of Advisor Development here at Advisors Excel. Make sure and click that like and subscribe button below so you can continue to get value like this for your business. All right, we're going to talk about the first problem in advisor sales processes. So, when I do my monthly coaching calls with advisors that I work with, here's the first problem we talk about. Who is the person that you're trying to connect with? Who is the ideal person's problems that you're trying to solve? And what I like to go through is what I call an avatar client exercise. And it really boils everything down to a few simple things. How old or what is the age group that your ideal prospect falls within? What do their assets look like? How much have they saved? What is even their occupation? And what have they been doing for the last 20 and 30 years? What about problems? Do you tend to see that most of the business that you close is because people come to you with specific questions? How can I maximize my Social Security? What do I got to do to get into the 0% tax bracket in retirement? I feel like I'm taking on too much risk for my investments. What are those specific areas and problems that you're solving for people? So here's what you do instead. You have to communicate your value very clearly to your prospects. And in order to do that, it all starts back in the marketing before you get into the sales process. You have to very clearly communicate, say you do seminars, and in your seminar, you have to really talk to that ideal person. If you're in a room full of 15 to 20 people, hey, let me tell you about Bob and Susie, who I met last week. And they were sitting right here in the front of the room, just like Tom and Linda are tonight. Now, Bob and Susie, she was 63, he was 65. They had done a good job. She was a school teacher, so she had this thing called a 403B, and he was an engineer. An engineer at the firm that he worked at, they had what's called a 401k. Does anybody know what those are? And now you're starting to create a story that people are connecting with in that marketing campaign, whether it's radio, TV, seminars, or even online digital leads. You have to be able to connect with that perfect prospect through that avatar client exercise. So run yourself through that avatar client exercise, identify exactly who you're trying to communicate with, and then make sure that we're building stories and incorporating that into your marketing so that you can continue to reach the people you're trying to reach. That solves problem number one. Okay, so now we're going to move on to problem number two. How do you build trust early and often throughout the appointment process? So here's the problem. The problem is, do you really know what others experience when they sit down with another financial advisor? So I had to do a study. I actually went and I sat down with some wirehouse firms. I won't mention their names, but when I actually went and sat down in their office, they found out that I was a mid-30s person that had a 401k that I needed to roll over. And as soon as they found out that I had a pulse and a little bit of money, the very first thing they did was, let me tell you how these American funds can really just help you solve the problems of the world. And when that was the case, a switch went off and I went, oh my gosh, they really don't understand exactly. They, being independent financial advisors, don't understand what it's like to sit in front of a wirehouse or a brokerage person. And when they start pitching product, that's what all of our clients experience. So if you understand and know that, how are you separating your process from somebody coming in with their guard up and not really understanding what you're going to do differently as an independent financial advisor? So this is really one area where you can start to separate yourself from the pack. So here's what you do instead. You start to ask questions specific about what their concerns are and how they came to meet you from whatever funnel they came in. Again, if they're doing radio or TV, or, a lot of our advisors do seminars, whether it's educational or dinner. And in their dinner seminars, they have what's called a response form. And that response form, they tell you to mark down exactly what your concerns are based on their presentation. So doesn't it make sense when you're sitting down with somebody for the first time to build a little bit of trust with them, to let them know that you heard them? And this is how our advisors do it. They say, hey, when you came to our workshop, you marked down that you have concerns with income planning. Tell me more about that. Now, we're going to dive in here in a little bit to just give you a little prequel of what's coming. We're going to talk more about questions that you should be asking, so hold tight for that. But this solves the second problem. How do you build trust early and often? And it's making sure and acknowledging their problems first and foremost. All right. Now, problem number 3. Here we go. Have a clear, named sales process. Here's the problem. Most advisors have been doing this for a while and they've figured out they're pretty good at what they do. So you got to ask yourself the question, and truthfully, you got to ask yourself this: am I winging it? And if there's any hesitation in the answer, you already know the answer to the question. So now, what do you do instead? You have to have something that's documented, that follows a specific process. I don't care if it's 3 appointments, 4 appointments, or 5 appointments. It has to be documented and named so that people understand what path they're going down and exactly how they're going to get to answer their questions or solve the problems that they have in retirement. And one of the ways that our advisors do that is through financial deliverables. And they show them exactly what they're doing. Like one of the pages that I coach to all the time shows, here's our 4-step appointment process. And one of the benefits of that is you get to the first meeting, or what we call a discovery meeting, where we get to know you and understand who you are and exactly what you're wanting from retirement. Then that next meeting is our mutual commitment meeting. This is where you simply decide, do you like the way that we plan, and do you feel like we can help solve your problems? Then the third meeting is going to be the onboarding. This is where we sit down and we pick and choose together the investments that are going to go into your portfolio to help solve your problems. And then the last step of that is onboarding. This is when we deliver your plan and let you know that you're going to be on track for retirement. So again, have a clear, named sales process that we can continue to market to and brand to. And then also it helps your advisors and your advisory team continue to close business on a consistent basis. That helps solve problem number 3. Okay, now on to problem number 4. Problem number 4, asking the right questions. One of the big problems here is I see what I call leading questions from advisors. And what I mean by a leading question is I'm asking a question that I already know the answer I want you to answer with. That's not a good question. We have to really step back and we have to really start with, well, if you remember a little bit ago, I referenced that response form coming from seminars. And if you pull out that same response form and you say, hey, Susie, it looked like you marked down that you have concerns with income planning. Tell me more about that. Tell me more is a great question. Or, gosh, Ron, it looks like you were an engineer at Lockheed Martin for 30 years. How'd you do that? That sounds interesting. One of our advisors, he puts people through what he calls the perfect day exercise. And there's 3 simple questions that you ask in a perfect day exercise. And I love it because it tees up financial planning perfectly. The first question is, hey, take me to your perfect retirement day and tell me where exactly you're at. That's question number 1. Where are you? Question number 2, who are you with? So yeah, you're on the beach in retirement. Who's with you? Is it your family? Is it your spouse? Is it your grandkids? Who is with you? And then that leads us to the third and final question. What are you doing? So let's recap the 3 questions. Where are you? Who are you with? And what the heck exactly are you doing? And I'll bet you dimes to dollars that none of those answers have anything to do with checking the market on a daily basis to make sure that they can withdraw the money that they need to have their income plan. Nobody has ever said that. And if they do say that, they're probably not a fit to work with you anyway. So let's make sure that we're asking the right questions, not leading questions, and start with the perfect day exercise. That solves problem number 4. All right, guys, we're coming up to problem number 5. And problem number 5 is a very, very common issue with financial advisors. It's how do we proactively handle objections? Some of it can be done from a marketing standpoint. You know, if it comes down to fees and you're having fee conversations, you could do one thing as simple as I'm going to put my fee structure in our seminar folder, and then everybody's already going to have that before we get into the meeting process. Sometimes you can potentially discuss open problems and potential concerns even when we get into the first appointment. Like I have advisors that ask all the time, hey, how long have you been with your advisor? Is this going to be an issue working with us? If we're able to help you solve X, Y, and Z, if we're able to help you solve this income problem, we're able to help lower your tax bracket, we're able to help get this figured out, would that be grounds for us to work together? Creating what we call an upfront contract and then talking through some of those different objections on the front end are going to be much better to close business on the back end. So ask yourself this. If I were in the prospect's shoes, would I buy from my own sales process? And if the answer to that question is no, or if there's any hesitation, then we know we got to go back and rework some things. Or what questions do I have? And that could bring in an even better opportunity for you to get better as a business owner. An exercise we have our advisors do all the time is called a secret shopper. You know, have somebody come in, sit in your sales process with maybe one of your other advisors, and then have them give you direct feedback on how that went. And then see for yourself, was it worth it? Did we answer the objections? And you may even find out that some of your advisors are not following the process that you created to the T, and that solves another problem. But that also answers our fifth problem of how do we handle objections on the front end? All right. Now, as we wrap up, we've really covered the 5 things that will help you build a consistent sales process. And you know, here's the bottom line. The bottom line is in order to close business consistently and successfully at a high level, you have to have a duplicatable process that others can repeat just beyond one person. And how you do that is by having a process that's proven based on the business owner that others can implement easily. You know, we talk a lot around here about different businesses in our either our industry or outside of our industry. And sometimes you just have to keep things simple. And the simpler you keep things, the more that creates scale. And the more that you create scale, that creates growth in your business. And that means the more people that you can help. So in our industry, the more people that we can help, that means we're solving a lot of problems. And if we can clean up and button up a sales process to help more people, that's the end game. So I hope you enjoyed the 5 things today. Make sure and click those links below. Take that AST track and we'll talk with you soon.